Call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Here.
Mr. Hoffman?
Present.
Mr. Needner?
Here.
Mr. Paulus?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Stevens?
Present.
Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Wood?
Here. Okay. Fire Committee, Mr. Needner.
I'll call the fire committee to order. I make a motion we approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Those in favor? Carries. Jim, you have any objection with the minutes?
Oh, I was trying to see what
You're on this
I'm
one.
looking.
Open the meeting to visitors. Anybody have anything for the fire committee? Old business. Mr. Pitzer has passed a background check but is not committed to the position. An email's been sent to him requesting action or another candidate will be pursued. So that's the status. New business, this is just informational, but Jamie, is it Ybarra? Is that how you say it? Is moving to full-time. But we don't need to vote on that. He's already employed there. It's just yeah. So, any other new business for fire committee? Okay, next meeting, when is the next meeting? Because that would be Labor Day.
Tuesday following.
So it'll be the following day, so that's what, the
Third.
3rd, September 3rd will be our next meeting. And make a motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
All those in favor? That's it.
Thank you. Police Committee.
Okay, I call the police committee meeting to order. I make a motion that we approve the committee meeting minutes from July. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor? Motion carried. Just recently, we had our annual inspection at the dog pound, and we passed that. Chief Hughes said that they did emphasize the fact that we are a pound, not an animal shelter. We are licensed as a dog pound. We have an overcrowding of animals, especially cats. They're looking at solutions, but right now the Humane Society has agreed to come and take a certain number of animals once a month to alleviate the,
Just cats or?
well, right now it's cats, you know. Kappa is involved in this as well, helping transport or whatever help they can give. So that's alleviating the problem presently. Hopefully that'll work, or other measures may have to be brought in at a later date. Tomorrow is the National Night Out. We have 3 block parties scheduled around town. Chief Hughes and the officers will be visiting each of those sites and talking with the people there, answering questions if they have some. And in the near future, Chief Hughes will be interviewing and hiring some part-time dispatchers. We're a little short-handed, so that's coming up in the very near future. That's all I have. Anyone else have anything for police?
Sonny, do you have I'm sorry, where those parties are? I know Treadways are having one.
We can ask
I've got the
Rich.
sheets upstairs. One of them is going to be Jerry Love's location. The other one will be at Daybreak Donuts, and then the Treadway location.
Okay.
Randall, did you have something?
Can you get those locations? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry about that, Rich. Couple of comments. I was hoping that we would have more places on the National Night Out for neighborhood parties, but we appreciate the efforts that people have gone to, and I hope that maybe next year we will get some more. It's a part of the community betterment program and project, so we encourage that. It's been going on here for at least a dozen years, because I helped organize the one the Treadways are having, and they've had one every year, and so it's a good place. Yep, I have another comment. and I'm going to give Rich and the police department a thank you, because in the last week, the Ministerial Alliance gets all kinds of calls about all kinds of help. Well, two of the people who contacted me were mental cases. And, you know, we need to figure out a way to deal with them. And I called Rich on his private line because I was very concerned about one. And the other one, we got transported out of town to a shelter. So the dispatcher and the police worked on that real hard, and I'm sure Rich could explain a little bit more why we have these problems. I don't know if this is the time, but I think the police committee ought to listen to some of the concerns that he shared with me. And maybe he has already done that, Sonny, I don't know. But anyway, I'm concerned about some of these folks that show up here. And in one case, she's been in and out of town for the last 2 years, and I didn't know that until I did a little digging. So we need to get people to a hospital or a care center that need it. And I don't know what the law is or the rules are, but Rich was very concerned about the matter, and I just wanted to compliment him about how he handled it.
Well, we thank you for that, Randall. Rich, did you have anything else, or would you care to expound on what Randall brought up?
Officer Lovelace is our community officer, neighborhood watch officer. He has been coordinating a lot of those things and making contacts with different locations. So we hope next year that we do have a better turnout for that. We will be applying for the block grants coming available in August. That has to do with equipment and things like that for the police department. Other than that, I think that's all I have.
Okay. Bob, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Anyone else? That's all we have, Tom.
Thank you, Sonny. Streets and alleys.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from July meeting.
Second.
Thank you, all in favor? Did you get the bigger stop, sign put at 9th and South Carolina? Are they got, is it ordered?
That falls under Rich's
Oh.
purview.
But, Kent can answer, can't you?
No, sir, I don't have anything to do with that.
9th in North Carolina, the stop sign.
The bigger stop sign, remember with the trees hiding it?
I don't believe it's come in at this point in time.
That's good.
Is it North or South Carolina?
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Dottie Graham called the city. She complimented street department, water department, and the police department for the work doing the flood. And that's all I got. Anybody else?
You got
Yeah.
one.
I got something for the, I think this belongs under streets and alleys. I've got a note I'll pass around to whoever needs this, but probably one of them needs to go to Jim. I had not written a thank you to the city for the street sign change at 10th and Tennessee, but that was done very shortly after I commented on it here, so I'm making that a public announcement. In the second place, I don't know where this falls, but I sometimes come up Tennessee Street West to my house, and I want attention given to cutting some shrubbery and overgrown bushes at that corner. There are 2 clumps of shrubbery at that corner, and one of them is beginning to obscure the stop sign. This is at the northeast corner of that intersection.
10th in Tennessee?
9th in Tennessee. Not my corner,
Yeah.
it's clear,
Okay.
but 9th in Tennessee. So when someone comes west on Tennessee Street, if you drive up there, you're going to see why traffic coming down off of Kentucky, which doesn't come slowly sometimes, it could be a dangerous situation. So I don't know who takes care of that, but I'm calling attention to it.
Okay. Can we turn that into Wally and have him check on?
I'll take care of it.
Okay.
So noted.
Well, the shrubbery needs to be cut down. It just
Okay.
needs to be cut down. It's in the way. And I've got one more thing.
Okay.
I'd like to call attention to street markers on Werman Avenue. Now, I know who lives on Werman because I've been to Larry's house several times. did you realize that some of the signs there, Larry, are misspelled?
Yeah,
Okay,
only, they're just one
They're
spelled
two.
one way and the other spelled the other way.
well,
Only
there,
two.
there are two that are misspelled, because I drove up there the other day, and I said, I'm sure the Werman family, or anybody that remembers them, would be helped if they come up there. The one at 54 in Werman was changed a number of years ago. But that was wrong when I moved to town. So I'm just making that comment, so you can do what you want with it.
Thank you.
I just got a couple things, Bob. There on Haley Avenue, when you get up to the stop sign, as you drive up to the stop sign in the middle of the road, the bushes and weeds are really bad there. And coming in from the east side of town, the Alps property looks awful. Weeds growing up around the building and the parking lot. Alps, the Alps.
Oh, it helps?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it just doesn't give a good appearance for the city. so.
Does that building belong to Alps or some local person on it?
Nadesco owns that building. Well, Nadesco is the realtor representing the owners.
That's all I have. Anybody else got anything?
Yes, I mentioned to you 60th Street, and it's between Georgia and South Carolina. There's a humongous hole. 16.
16.
Between South and North Carolina.
Okay.
You just said George.
Georgia, yes.
Georgia and South Carolina?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get it right here.
Yes.
If you drive on this street, you'll find it.
Or it'll find you.
Yeah, we don't got two blocks.
It's quite deep.
That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Buildings and grounds.
I'd like to make a motion, or have a motion, is that it, to approve the minutes from the July meeting?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. All I have is, I see Mr. Hendrickson's here about the ballpark. I think everything else has pretty well been taken care of.
No, I got something.
Okay.
Those tanks that I was talking about, they're no longer available.
They removed the tanks? The tanks, they removed them?
The company that's going to give them to us.
Oh.
They pulled it back.
They're looking at them.
Okay. Well, if I might, there's been some confusion as to the capacity of what we're contributing in the city, so I'm hoping Bob and Curtis being here, we can kind of get to the bottom of what we were looking at. I pulled up the minutes from May, and I'm looking for some audio, but basically, Curtis, you were here, I believe, in February, correct? Before I was on council, is that right, Larry? When he approached us, was that when Ann was here? Basically worked out for the matching of the school to match for the new ball fields. The school was able to raise $15,000, $10,000 from the school and $5,000 for boosters, correct? Okay. So initially when we spoke, I know even after the budget issues we had, there was $20,000 set there for matching of the project. Under buildings and grounds in May, it says here, Mr. Janey has budgeted approximately $20,000 for matching funds for the project. So there's been some confusion as to what we're doing and why those funds aren't available.
That's in the minutes, and I said that it's erroneous because every conversation I had with Mr. Hendrickson after the budget revisions is I told him explicitly, we did not have the $20,000 in the parks budget that we originally had.
Okay, when I asked you, once was on the record, once was off on the side, I said, do we still have that money set aside? Because Larry actually concerned me, because he said, you remember, you said, I don't think we have that money, can't afford it. So I said, I got concerned, I asked you, I said, do we still have that money set aside in the budget? We did, that was right after the cuts that we made, that was right after the cuts in the budget meeting that we made, and I'm looking for the audio, I'll find it by next week, but.
And if that's the case, it's a mistake on my part.
But they've already started work.
There.
I mean, that's an issue, they've already started work.
He's done more work than I you overstepped your boundaries. I said, go ahead with the dugouts. I said, the dugouts are fine, but you took everything down.
I asked you if it was okay to do demolition.
No.
Okay, hold on just a minute. Go ahead, Curtis. I want to hear you.
I've had several conversations with Mr. Denny. None of them have been very.
Okay. Well, let's get to the guts. And,
Right.
Let's get to the
I said the school board has approved $15,000 with help from the Booster Club. Is it okay for us to demolition?
Okay.
And he said, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. When do you remember when this was exactly?
That was Wednesday, the day after the school board meeting. Never said anything about just dugouts. Because I wouldn't have took it down.
Okay. And Bob, is your recollection not there? Is your recollection not the same?
It's not.
Okay, what was said then?
From the get-go, I have told him, after those budgetary cuts, I said the only thing that the city could provide him with is the fencing that we were able to procure and any in-kind labor that we could perform for that.
Okay. And when was, my question here is my involvement in this when I asked you if that money was set aside and you had assured me that it was. So I kind of took my hand off because I thought, okay, we're good. But that's not my call. I just wanted to make sure through questions that we clarified that. And you remember me asking him that, correct? Okay.
And I have told Larry from the get-go.
Right, but this is what we got to stop doing. And I understand that there's lack of communication. I understand that there's fuzzy thoughts. But we're talking about a big project that now somehow we have to figure out how to rectify this situation. And I'm looking for options because they've already started demoing. I know that we put a committee together. They got the YMCA involved. It's a collaborative effort with I was there. Larry's been involved. He's been involved. Marcia Garrison for the YMCA representing them. Mike Lenz, some of his board members. So it's a good thing where they're going to start raising their own funds. So they're working towards that. How we finish this project, I thought this was just a home run cut and dry, but apparently there's an issue here in the budget. So the minutes say one thing, Curtis says one thing, and you say another thing. Somehow we have to get to...
Hey, put me on the box. I don't have a problem.
I don't understand what that means.
Polygraph.
I'm not... Polygraph of what?
He wants to say...
No, that's fine. That's neither here nor there. At this stage, we have to figure out...
It is to me because this man is trying to impugn my integrity and what I said to him. And what he's doing is trying to put the city out on Front Street so he can get his tournament with this pretty dugout and backstop.
But if the minutes show that we said that we budgeted approximately $20,000 for matching the funds, where would that have come from?
As I said, before I was directed to give the budget cuts.
The budget cuts, but see, the budget cuts were specific cuts that we all met and took out of the budget.
And as I said, those came out of parks.
I'm not on the committee. Some of those did. When I went back and listened to the audio, that the reference was, and it was even the subject of a mathematical error that was discussed at length. There was actually $2,000 that came out of that fund. It wasn't earmarked for anything we didn't. It may have been for this project, but the number was $2,000 plus a police car and a truck. Those are the three things that were specifically addressed, totaled, and they have it on audio. So the budget cuts, it wasn't the truck, it wasn't the police car. I can only speak to, there was $2,000 that came out of parks that was related to the budget cuts.
The improvements, or
when we talked about reducing the budget during our discussion from what the original proposed budget was, the amount that was there was a $2,000 amount, and I went back and verified that. It didn't say what it was in parks, but it was a $2,000 reduction from parks.
But did it say in any of your conversations or whatever that we would put all of our eggs in one basket, or did it say we had dollars in the budget for parks? That's not the only park in Louisiana.
No. I specifically asked, Bob. I specifically asked in that conversation, after those cuts, because Larry said we probably don't have the money, I said, okay, before they start breaking ground, that's when I asked, is that money still budgeted or did we cut it? He said it's still there in that account, we left it in that account. And that's one thing that I will absolutely vouch for. I'm sure you remember when we did that. So,
But when you approved the budget, there was the truck had been eliminated,
right, police car, truck,
and specifically within the parks budget, that was reduced from 20,000 to 6,000 for improvements to all parks.
okay, then that really needed to be clarified. That wasn't clarified at all. There was no clarification within that whatsoever, or even just as a citizen, I would have said, whoa, cool your jets, because I'm sitting here with all of these printouts. Larry has the same, I assume you have the same as well, Bob. A lot of the fencing was a bulk amount of the cost. So we were cutting costs getting that fencing, which was great.
And it was always earmarked for the ball fields.
Right, which there's no question, like I said, and that's what we had met about and figured. This number, initially had a few numbers. One was an estimated cost of $34,000. One was an estimated cost of $42,000. Based on matching with that money, they came up with $15,000.
What I got was one bid that was provided from
That
Curtis
was my next question. Well,
for the entire project.
okay,
And that was from, I believe, Heartland Restoration.
okay. Which was how much? Do you have the exact amount?
Offhand, I don't remember.
Do you have an idea?
From the, he did
Was
one
that
in
the
the fall.
42?
That was 42,000.
Okay. That was with the fencing, though. That was not with us helping with the fencing, correct? Okay. Here's where we're at. We have a field that is demolished. We need to figure out how we're going to improve that and get the ball rolling. Now, they've created committees to fundraise, to create revenue stream for themselves from here on out. That's been the one thing lacking, and I'll be honest, and that was a problem. So I give him credit there. He's been addressing that issue. And they're creating sponsorship programs and some other things. I'm sure he can present that, but that's not the issue right now. The issue we have right now is how, if at all, are we going to be able to afford to do what we initially said we were going to do. Now, I'll make the point that there was maybe some miscommunication between you two. The minutes show one thing. So, again, council.
I don't deny.
Right, and I'm asking council for some ideas here because did we get bids yet? I'm sorry, just one more minute.
I've got the bids and they were to be in by, and they're ready to be open.
Are we able to go through numbers now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had one bid that he didn't seal it, and that is from Kearns Construction. And specifically what we did was, I said, for the dugouts only. His bid is $25,796.38.
Okay.
And he wants a down payment of $12,898.19. And then the second half upon completion.
That's high.
Okay. The other remaining bids, which I will open up. From Heartland Restoration, which is the original one that Curtis had. Look at it. For the erection of the 2 new concrete and masonry dugouts with metal roofs per plans and specs at Wallace Memorial Park. Price is $23,963. Typical payment terms are 50% deposit with progress payments due upon receipt of invoice.
And we won't have the fencing bid till Friday, correct? Till this Friday?
As far as the dugout, yes.
Well, the dugouts we have, but we need the fencing bids. Isn't that a separate bid?
That's what the outside walls and the backstop.
Okay. Okay, so that price includes the
Because he
backstop?
requested that to be put in a separate bid.
Well, my question here is I want to find out what a bottom dollar is going to cost.
He's got one more bid on it.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
got 2 more bids.
I'm sorry,
sorry.
Bob. I apologize.
I just saw the envelope.
It felt like Christmas. We opened it, it was there.
I have a bid from MS Parish of material and labor at $26,071.87.
Okay.
How much was that again?
$26,071.87. And the last bid is from a Mark Twain Construction. And his bid is $15,800.
Okay. That's a gross transition, that's just unbelievable. $10,000 difference? Well, that's good.
And he is out of 8860 Highway AD.
And the name is Mark Twain Construction?
Mark Twain Construction.
Okay. We know that they raised $15,000. So let's say we have allotted $4,000. Is that correct? To the project?
No, you have $4,000 in your budget.
I got a total of $6,000 for improvements to parks in the parks.
That was what
Total
I was
part.
wanting to discuss. Now, my copy says 10. I don't know where you dropped that other 4, but. And I would suggest if you survey the parks, if no other park needs any major, it's not for maintenance, you understand, it's for improvements. If no other parks need an improvement, use that 10,000.
Well, the only issue I have, Monroe, there is that we said we would match it. And the minutes show that. So, and now we're going to come back and say, well, we're not going to do that, even if it was a mistake. They created a certain path to do this.
Well, that was the only idea.
Right, no, it's a great idea. I'm like, I would at least want to explore an idea of how to come up with the extra money to match the 15,000, and from that point on, they're on their own. But, you know, I would like us to at least stand behind what we said on the matching
You're
side.
talking about 5,000, because you've got 10. If no other parks need an improvement, you've
Right.
got. At least my copy says 10. I don't see where you cut that.
Which is a good, I mean, that would work if there's no other major improvements, but.
You know,
Getting late in the year.
I'm going to say this. The Buildings and Grounds worked with the school. They were actually, I seen the plans. Hendricks brought them to me, the first ones. That was $187,000, which you brought me the first time.
121.
121, okay.
That was for
Pretty
all
high.
three. All three.
That was all
motions.
3 fields. And I told him at the time when he brought the plans to me the first time, the dugouts are like pro dugouts. They are. That's extravagant.
Okay.
I'd love to see them, love to see the park improve that much. But on a limited basis, you can't do that.
Well, let me ask this, Tom.
What are you gonna do with the other 2 fields?
Well, I understand, but part of the, and being at the committee, part of the plan is not a short-term plan, it's a long-term plan, and these revenues are to have a project a year that they're gonna finish to bring that field up, because right now, I mean, let's be realistic, within the district, we're far behind within the district, from a school
There
standpoint.
hasn't been anything done out there since they were
Right.
initially built.
Right, again, and as a parent, and I won't stay on that, but as a parent, we live out there, we love it. So, I like the fact, as a visionary, I want to see us start taking pride in those projects. Now, you can't just create money and make it happen, but they're making steps to make a revenue stream to create those projects every year and to finish a project every year. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to fund it,
Right.
but at least they're taking those steps. So this, and I understand what you're saying about the dugouts, but at the same time, these kids, when they take pride in these whatever it is, their grounds or fields, there's something to that.
I understand that.
So,
But I also want to tell you this. Before you destroy the field, which you said we did, which we have, we should have had the bids and approved the bids and decided what we was going to do prior to tearing one field completely up.
I agree with that to an extent, but we had the money for matching was there, based on
Matching on what?
matching on what the school
According,
comes up with.
according to the budget, it shows that we had 4,000 budgeted in the 13-14 fiscal year budget for improvements to parks.
Okay.
4,000?
Yes, sir.
Is there any way that we could
Mine
put them back,
shows 10.
enlarge them, but put them back wood structure instead of going all block?
I'm sure you could. I mean, it's
That would cut the price way down.
The fencing is the main thing. It's, that fence that we had wasn't safe.
Yeah.
I mean, we can change the structure for what we're bidding on the dugouts. I mean,
what if there was a
but as
situation?
far as when I specifically went around, I took pictures of all the dugouts in the area, and that's what everyone's doing right now. Cinder block dugouts, metal roofs.
What if there was a situation where we could put some kind of, through the committee or through the fundraising for Wallace Field Committee, they created a Wallace Field Committee, what if there was some way for us to pay back the city within a certain time frame for building these structures? A certain percentage of what we make on structures. Because I'd like to see these projects done right. I don't want to see them done halfway because we're going to keep them for the next, 15, 20 years. He also came up with ideas for signs for soft tossing and things that destroyed the fence in the first place. So we definitely need to make sure that doesn't happen again. There's certain, and part of the committee again, and I know I keep hammering this to you guys, but within that committee, you have the Corey League saying, yes, we need to do this, and we'll be involved here. You have, the school saying, yes, we need to step up our, what we're doing here, and we're getting involved here. So we're seeing a collaborative effort of people coming together, and that's what we've been looking for. So I want to reward that if we can. It's not just for the kids and this and that, but these guys are putting an effort. Curtis is a young guy. He's, he's the AD over there, and I just want to see us start, taking some pride in those things. Those parks I love them. So, again, if there's a way for us to find the money to finish this project, a $15,800 bid is a pretty decent bid. I'd like to know what a final number is and see if there's a possibility of us to get, I don't care how we get creative, whether it's through surpluses or whether it's through paybacks, through the committee, something for us to get creative to make this happen. That's my personal choice. So.
Wasn't there a certain amount of in-kind work on this?
Yeah, we've already, who pulled up the post?
That was in kind.
City?
No, their group did
Your
that.
group pulled up our stuff?
Yep.
I have one question for you. Why would you pull the post up?
Because every fencing contractor I talked to said they cannot be reused. Because by the time, they were all in concrete, and by the time you pull them up, they're going to bend and not be reused.
Well, I don't know what contractor you talked to, but I disagree with them. So we went out there at the city and we picked up all the posts, we put them in a dumpster, we took the backstop. You got a price on that backstop?
No, that'll be forthcoming
Yeah.
Friday.
That'll be part of that
That
other bid.
backstop's gonna cost you an arm and a leg.
Let me ask you this, Bob. Will that be the final number, those two bids?
I would believe so, yes.
Okay.
And that park is dear and near to me because it's named after my son. And we've always taken care of it. We've got to let it go downhill the last 10 years or 12. We needed to do the dugouts. The fencing, I kind of question that, and I told you that.
But in all due respect, Tom, like when on that field that we were going to do, you could take the backstop. And I know I'm a big man, but I'm not real strong. You could go like this.
I didn't,
I
I
mean-
said the fencing.
Yeah.
The fencing was solid, but I went out there and looked at that.
But if we got that fencing,
We already have.
Well, what I'm saying to you is where the fencing was, you're gonna put a new backstop up. You're gonna move it back.
right,
But in the same token, you extend your fence from your backstop to the existing fence. The thing that they was concerned about is center field is 280 feet. according to their rules, the softball and high school rules, it has to be 240, am I correct?
Between 185 and 225.
Okay, 225.
So we were at
So
205.
my suggestion to Mr. Hendricks was, before we moved any fences or did anything, is to take our orange ribbon fence for his tournament and bring it in and put a temporary fence up to comply with high school rules. Did I not?
I mean,
Did I not?
the outfield fence, first of all, the temporary fence, the state association doesn't, they say they don't prefer that. They prefer, I mean, if it, we could have just easily said we're not going to host a tournament, but that's not what's best for kids, and that's the
No.
one thing that I'm concerned about.
And I agreed with you when you brought the first
Right.
set of plans here, but I said, you're not gonna get that kind of money. You got 6 parks in Louisiana, and you take care of all of them, not just one. And I did tell you that. And then you resubmitted it, so I stepped out of it, and I gave it to Bob and the Buildings and Grounds Committee to work up a plan.
Wasn't part of it, I'm sorry. Some of what we thought, and I wasn't in, and I was here when you made your initial proposal, so I remember hearing that, Curtis. That MLB grant that you were hoping
Yeah,
for.
We
that
tried
was-
it, we never heard back.
Yeah,
from-
wasn't that part of the money that you were hoping to
No,
put?
that's a big dollar grant, big dollar.
Okay, well, I was just, I didn't
No, that
know.
wasn't factored in.
No.
Okay, that's what I was.
But you-
$200,000.
Yeah,
That's one of
they-
those you could just do everything.
Okay.
They want sweet.
I didn't know what it was because I wasn't here when it
That's
started.
when
Yeah,
they,
because
they
on my
asked.
first submission, they said, well, you overlooked this, and this, and they gave me more detailed information that they required that I didn't have at the first submission. I went ahead and resubmitted it, and I heard back faster on the first submission than I did on the resubmission.
Okay.
Because
I
I've never
didn't
heard
know,
that.
that's why I
One
wanted to
more
clarify
I
that.
got a suggestion.
Sure, shoot.
What I would like to see you all do now, you have the fence, you got the fence posts you can do. Let's put the fence up, because you're gonna have to come up with a backstop that matches the fence. You know that.
Right.
Then you have time to go out and reconstruct on your dugouts. Get another type of dugout. The dugouts you give would make the Cardinals dugout look shabby. I mean, if you really want to look at the blueprints, they're in Bob's office. And the dugouts that we were presented, or that I seen, the sketches. What do you need a 30-foot storage room, or a storage room 10 by 12 with a automatic door on it? I mean, that's a little bit far-fetched.
It shouldn't have been an automatic door, it was a roll-up door.
Okay, but.
Yeah, and he did have roll-up door.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, on a dugout, what do you need it for?
Just, there's four different groups using the building, so storage is a premium.
That's true, but if you're gonna do something like that, what you need to do is expand your storage room and not add it onto a dugout.
Well, we can come up with game plans all we want.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But my question, my last question, I'm gonna leave you guys with this. When you have everybody collaborating and putting money into this pot, why would we not want to spend our money on this? Why would we not want to do that? Because it's gonna shine. That's good. Let it shine. That's what we want in this
I
town.
don't have a problem with it at all. You got a man over there that wants to speak?
Mind if I say something?
Shoot, absolutely.
This is great. My son got free college from baseball. I love baseball. But if you all would, it's kind of my job, just ask me. Mark Twain Construction is my #1 contractor in this town. They do the best work for the most reasonable price. My son is the high school baseball coach at Stover High School. They put a new backstop and new fences down each side of their field for $9,000.
Mark Twain did?
Stover High School
He's
in
just talking about
Stover,
the-
Missouri.
Oh, I see.
Mark Twain Construction is a very good contractor. these prices that you have got, some of these bids are just crazy. They're exorbitant out of this world. 15 grand is a little high for a storage building, for a dugout
I thought
and your
so.
storage building. But what I'm saying is Mark Twain Construction is one of my best contractors in town. They built the Burlington Northern office out in the industrial park. They built onto the Trimble House. They're a major contractor in this town. So before you jump and start doing stuff, if you don't mind, I'd be more glad to tell you to save you some money or tell you who's good and who's not good. You know, and I know there's a lot of ways you can get all this done for.
We have $19,000 as of right now. Curtis, are those conditions on the school board based on us matching that as well? Okay, that's the other, so the issue here is we're gonna end up having to match that to get the money.
I know you want nice new stuff for the kids and they deserve it. But on the big field right now, the gates that you're using to go from outside in there, I made those gates at Hercules at 11 o'clock at night 20 years ago, and you're still using them. They're stainless steel gates.
So,
But what I'm saying is, I want the very best for them.
are you offering to build it?
No, I would be glad to help do anything, but what I'm saying is, don't just say, just cause you think you got that much money, don't go wild with it. But you can have good stuff and not cost near as much money as, you have money left over to do something else out.
But we're at the mercy of the bid system, correct? I mean, we're required to take those
And
bids.
as
You don't
I,
have to.
You
as
don't
I
have to accept
suggested,
no.
See, I don't know how that works, so
No.
teach me.
You do not
You
have
don't
to accept them.
any bid.
we have the authority to accept or reject any and all bids.
Okay, can I ask this?
My recommendation would be, and as I suggested to you, is if it's a minimum amount, even if it's 15,000, I'd say, let's go ahead and go tap the reserves. We did it for the AC unit and everything.
I think it's worth it.
And
I do
it's, and we're nowhere near matching what we did with the AC unit.
That's a good
So
idea.
I don't have a problem with that.
Larry, my 2 cents, I'm not on your committee, is that
I'm not here.
this, I noticed, this city needs to be very careful about its communications, and I don't know that we always have been. I can see that I do not see wherever there was a $20,000 line item in the budget to match this, in the first budget or the reduced budget, but maybe I missed it, and that's on us to have not seen it. I do remember you asking and being told, and it was in my mind, that there was $20,000 available somehow to match this project. If we told our citizens that there was $20,000 for this, and then they've gone out and, based on being told that, have engaged in this work and this effort, and it's been a success on their part, then we need to own it. We need to make this thing happen. If that means touching our reserves,
Absolutely.
then we should do it. This is not something that does not result in a capital improvement that is beneficial for many years to come. This isn't lost funds. This is an investment in ourselves. And I agree with Bob that we need to seriously consider, regardless of what the budget actually is, if we made that commitment, then we need to live up to that commitment.
I'd like to make that a motion to take to full council.
I have a question. Before we make a motion and we allocate this money or make a recommendation, I want to see the dugouts rebid because it's not feasible with the dugouts they've got. And that's a fact, and I think every one of you need to go up and look at them blueprints up there. They're concrete buildings.
But we're not gonna have to put, I mean, you gotta look at the time, issue of money. I mean, we're not gonna have to service those dugouts.
I
So,
don't think we've serviced the ones that are out there,
look at them.
That's the
other
problem.
than paint for 15 years.
But look at them, they're falling apart.
The thing of it is that
I'm
they
going to
came up
recommend
with,
to the committee, though, that we get another drawing of a different dugout that's more economical and feasible to what we have.
I go along with what Bart said up to a point, but if we said 20, it needs to be 20, not 15.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's, you know, we need to stand up. What, you know, they came up with a certain amount of money with the premise that it's matched by the city.
Matched,
Matched.
not, it's up to 20,000, not the full 20,000.
Right.
So
So
we said,
we said if the school comes up with
what
20,000,
we gotta match that.
right,
What do we have?
15, right, as of now.
Whatever they come up with,
Whatever they
up
come-
to
up to
$20,000,
And they only come up with 15?
Yeah.
Okay.
then we would match that.
Well, how much is this in-kind work costing us?
Nothing.
Huh?
Oh, what
Raw
do you mean,
labor.
nothing?
No, you said in kind, the labor
didn't
that
give
we've
us
already
that
got.
fence.
Backhoe and,
We've
Oh.
had the.
Oh, you
crew
mean through
that-
the city? You mean through,
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm sorry.
yeah.
I meant the volunteers on the day
If
that
you
they had the
add that
volunteers
on
out
top,
there with the tractor.
You know, the 10,000, you're getting, I mean, it's a lot of money.
Mhm.
You can't run that equipment for nothing.
Well, then we could, I mean, that extra 5,000 can be used for the in-kind labor. On top of the 15.
Well, you got the fence already that we paid for.
Right.
And.
How much would that, how much is a roll of that fencing?
Oh.
It was, I think all total, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought it was around 25, 50.
Per roll?
No, it was
Total.
$50 for a roll,
Total
which
for all
normally
of it.
goes anywhere from $90 to $100.
You mean
That's
new?
commercial.
What's the,
And
what's
it's
the
brand new.
length of the roll?
Well, that's good.
50 foot.
50 foot? What's the length of that fencing?
6 foot high, 50 foot
Have
long.
you got a full length on the fencing? 60 feet from the corner?
If I might, we're out of procedure here. There's a motion on the floor, and you don't
Yeah.
discuss it
Thank you.
till it's a second.
That's right. we
So
need
I'll
to set-
second your motion
Thank you.
now. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Thank you.
What exactly, Kathy, what
Would you
exactly
restate
is
the
your
motion,
Like,
please?
what-
I make a motion that we, if we have to tap the reserves, that we do this match that we had already said that we would. Is that good enough?
Match
You-
up to $20,000.
To whatever this,
Right.
whatever the school district apportioned, which
Right.
is 50.
Your motion is to take that to full council.
Yes.
Finance, shouldn't
Well, I think
Yeah, it has to go.
it? Has to go through
it
finance.
has to go through finance? Okay, so we'll bring it up in finance and then bring it to council on Monday. Okay,
Yeah, be fine.
okay.
So you
Thank you,
rescind
guys.
your motion?
Sorry to make that so long.
I don't,
Well, if
I
it's a budget, no,
I don't think it
doesn't-
needs to come up under finance.
No, because it's a
That sort of thing
budgetary
has in
item.
the past, so
It's
that's
already in the
I think
budget.
it can come to full council from anywhere for consideration.
Right, that ain't clear? Sure. Good?
Yeah.
I do.
What about the idea or the concern about maybe having a little bit less elaborate dugouts?
Well, that doesn't-
Rebid it.
That's fine. That doesn't have anything to do with us making the motion that we, that we have the
Well,
money
it affects the
made
money
available.
you're talking about. If they
And-
want
in the end.
15,000 to build
In the
that.
end, in the
Yeah.
end it does,
If,
but,
if it's under 30,000, then it'll be irrelevant.
yeah.
If that
Oh,
bid
you-
comes in under 15, then they're in good shape.
The lowest bid you had tonight was
It's 15.
15,000. That's not counting your fence, your backstop, or anything else.
Right.
Right, that's, do
Installing it,
you have any
or
idea what that's gonna
is that
cost?
installed?
That's strictly the dugouts,
Yeah.
labor and material.
I'd say it'd be less than what the dugout was bid.
So you think it'd be less than 15,000? If that happens, then I think that's a moot point, with Sonny. But I guess we won't know till Friday, which, will we know before finance?
I can get you those numbers.
That'd be
yeah,
great.
If you want to let me go ahead and open them
Oh, I,
prior to,
yeah, absolutely.
if that's agreeable to you all.
I don't know, is that an issue?
Sure, you can open them during finance.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can do it right at finance, that's
Yeah.
fine.
That'll work.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Monroe, you seconded that motion?
Yes, I
Yes, he
Good.
did.
Okay.
You want to call the vote, Larry?
You got to call for it.
No,
No, you
You
call
you
for
call
it.
for it.
Just your committee.
Yeah.
For
it don't go for,
All in favor?
Oh,
Passed.
okay.
I have one thing that doesn't have anything to do with the school, but I have had, and I don't even know if we can do anything about this, but numerous complaints about, and I talked to you about this last week, the pool closing early.
Okay, really?
Yes, my grandkids being one of them several times. The one time I was telling Bob about, went out there at 3 o'clock and they were like, oh, we're gonna close at 4. There's not enough people there. Well, at 3:45, 6 more people showed up. Well, then there was over the amount that they said that they needed, which was 10 to keep the pool open, but they still closed early. Today, they were out there, and I had people, other people, not just my grandkids, but my grandkids were telling me about it. They went out there, and the kids that are running things, I guess because there's not an adult out there, decided they didn't want to stay past 3:30 today, so my grandkids paid their $3 or $4, whatever it costs to get in the pool. I don't know. To swim for 30 minutes, because then they made them leave because they wanted to go home early.
Well, I'd say that if
I'll
they,
address those concerns with Marcia.
if they paid the $4 and they only got 30 minutes, they're due a refund.
I would say so too, but they didn't get one. They refused to give them any money back.
I don't remember that contract. Was there any time limit on that contract?
I don't think so, but I don't remember what the contract said, and I know
Yeah,
Bob
it was-
gave us copies of them, but
In the
it needs to be
contract, they have
addressed.
They have a right to close if they don't have their.
The problem that we have now is that Melissa has resigned her
Right.
position with the Y. And I don't think there's any supervision, which I will address it with Marcia.
Yeah, because, I mean, to me, that's a big issue, and they're closing before, a lot of parents, you know, can't take their kids out there because they're too little, until they get off work, and they get off work at 3, and they're gonna close at 4, and, you know, if they don't have, even if they, you know,
The hours were supposed to run to 6.
yeah. And if they're paying
they're
for
closing
a
at 4?
family pass, yeah.
I thought it was like 5 or something.
Yeah, today it was 3:30.
Okay, I'll address it.
If they're paying for a family pass, they want to go out there and swim.
Agreed,
So,
agreed.
I don't go out there and swim, but, you know.
Bob will address that
Okay,
with them.
so anyway, I had numerous complaints about that,
Sounds
Bob.
like
So
grandma burning.
So it is.
That sounds like-
Go ahead.
I think this is an issue that needs to be dealt with with Kent Adams, but we have a lot of dead trees in town. And I think the homeowners need to be cited for having potentially dangerous trees.
I don't know that we have anything on the books that would allow that. And I will have to research that, because you're
there's a-
talking about personal property.
Yeah,
And I'll get with our attorney
okay.
and take a look at that.
Of course, the city's got one up in Henderson Park, a dead tree, you know.
That one's down. They took that one down.
On the north side of Henderson, didn't they?
They took it down.
Okay, I stand corrected. I want to know where we're at on the permits for that dumpster on Park Hill, or Star Hill.
It ain't gonna happen.
I thought we could get permits for that.
I can tell you right now, DNR will not approve it.
Have you tried?
Does the council want to spend $2,000 on a yearly basis to do that?
Absolutely. To me, I don't know of anything for the citizens that's more important than that dumpster up on Star Hill. I don't know what we're gonna do, the citizens are gonna do with your trash if you don't have a place to put it.
We've spoken to Walmsley and everybody involved in it. Kent's been involved in it.
I've
And
called DNR, and they said, absolutely not. That would be considered a dump site. And not only could the city not do it, Walmsley cannot do it. They cannot set a dumpster on our site, and they can't call it.
because it's not property owned by them.
Right. They can't
So
set
we're
it.
gonna have to quit harassing people who've got trash on their front porch. I don't know what else you're gonna do. They tell me it's $50 to get in that dump out there, a minimum
Yeah.
of 50.
Well,
It's
then your
expensive.
gas
Bowling
get there.
That is Eagle Ridge out there.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive.
I've
So
taken
you
a lot of
can't pay
trash.
$50 to go out there and dump a mowing check.
Not unless you
No,
got.
I think it's cost me, we tore a house down
Yeah.
across the street from my house, I think it's $800.
I cleaned out my
No,
garage.
I'm
It
talking
cost
about
me
the sack of stuff in your
Big
trunk, not tearing down a house.
We've gotten several of them too, and it's very expensive.
What are our solutions?
Huh?
What's the solution here?
Well, we
That's
have
what I'm
spring
trying to find.
and fall cleanup.
You can, if you have a couch, I mean, you can pay like $20 or $30 extra and they'll pick it up. You just set it out there and you call them and set up, let them know that you're gonna have it out there.
Any appliance or couch or something of that nature, you can call and they will pick it up for an additional fee. Problem is, folks just don't like to pay that additional fee.
I wouldn't, I'll just be
Well, they
honest.
didn't take couches and appliances to begin with at one start.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
Again,
I'm not talking
yeah.
about couches.
You're right.
but I mean, if you
I'm
have,
talking
two
about
extra
lawn
trash
chairs.
bags, you can set them out and you can pay a little bit extra and they'll pick them up. I do it when I have extra.
It's $1 a bag, I think.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman in Pittsfield that will happily come pick up any appliance that anybody wants to get rid of.
Okay, that's enough of that. We beat that to death, there's nothing to do with it, so.
Okay, I've got one,
No, I've got another one here.
okay.
It says here that we received a proposal from Jim Davis and Rudy Bell to purchase that building, the old sportsman's lounge down there. What's happened to that?
And I believe in their proposal, they said that they wanted it put out for bid,
For engineer.
No.
but, well, what I've got and what was due last Friday is, based upon your instructions, I put out the RFQ for 2 engineering firms. I have received 2 responses, one from Miko Engineering and one from Porter Berendzen, Berendzen Architects. And I'll be happy to make a copy of their qualifications and disseminate it to the council.
And they're gonna look at old building over there?
Then their determination would be whether it can be, renovated and saved, or if it should be demolished. But in the interim, I have received contact from a lady who has interest in not only that building, but she's already entered into discussions with Jim Davis, and she is also looking at Feldworth's building. So,
All 3 of them right in a row then?
yes, sir.
Larry, my thoughts on this is that this conversation needs to get to full council, so if you want to bring it there, I would appreciate it. But in a nutshell, we had proposals from the Dempseys, we had proposals from the Carters on properties, and we took a certain course of action. At the same time, we had a proposal from Bell and Davis. And we need to be certain that we are treating the process that we are giving Rudy and Jim the same as we treated those other 2. Happened at the same time, same set of circumstances. We were approached with people who had proposals. It was listed when we put out a request for proposals, it was listed. That property was listed in that advertisement. So I think we need to be very, very careful to treat them exactly the same way.
Did they come back with any kind of a bid or an acceptance, or have they just dropped it?
They had conditions.
They had conditions that they established.
It was a part of their proposal.
One was a dumpster, one that it went out for bid, if I'm not mistaken.
Which it did.
For a year to bring it up to
And in
code.
a year to bring it up to
Yeah.
standards, and that we provide the dumpster. I think there was a total of 4 conditions. I don't recall the 4th one off.
You paid for.
But we didn't do anything.
No, we paid for
Can't-
closing
You
costs.
paid for closing.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
paid for closing.
But we didn't do anything with it at the time that they made the proposal. In fact, I recommended when we was talking about the Dempsey and the Carters, that we need to look at that at the time, if you remember, but we didn't.
I don't recall you making that recommendation, but
I
I think
asked about it.
we
Yes,
should
she
have.
did.
Okay.
Cat,
I did.
We should have. We
Yeah.
should have done exactly with it
But
what we did with the rest.
Actually, when it comes to selling real estate or putting it out for bid or discussing it buying or selling, we should conduct that in executive
closed
session.
session.
I disagree with that
Well,
entirely. We
we-
have the option of doing that, but that does not mean we must. And I
But you
think
don't-
it's,
You don't set the precedence on that. That is set by the mayor. I can call executive session for acquisition of land.
I didn't say you
So we're
couldn't.
not gonna get in a debate about that. And
I can talk about it in public session.
So
You
so
address
did
it
the
from out
proposal
there.
ask for an
Address it from right
engineers? Because I don't recall,
No.
it didn't, but I
their
know I talked
proposal
to,
Did not. And basically what I had asked the council, and I think it should reflect in the minutes, I said, what is the council's, what direction do they want to take? Should we pursue demolition, or should we pursue
I remember that.
Yeah.
looking
Yeah.
at trying to renovate the buildings? And the
My,
consensus was that we renovate and see, and I suggested that we get either an engineering firm or an architect
right,
to tell us.
Didn't
What
we
can be
approve
done?
that? Didn't
Yeah.
we approve that?
yeah,
Yes.
that's what he
yeah,
got
she
there.
did approve.
Right.
my recollection is that there were two conversations happening in parallel. One was prior to receiving the bid or the proposal from Rudy and Jim. We were already discussing the Hodges building
Right.
because it was a problem property that we have. It's falling down, we're not holding ourselves to the same standard we're asking of other citizens downtown, et cetera. That's when we started along the lines of we should find out from an engineer
Right,
whether it's worth saving, are we gonna fix it, are we gonna tear it down? Then separate from that decision to get this request for qualifications, we were approached with someone who has a proposal. They are unrelated.
right,
We could stop this request for proposal right now and move forward with selling this property to Rudy and Jim if we so deemed. We do not need to continue down that path.
Which, this is our last property, right, Brooke? that we
This
own?
is the last
Yes.
downtown historic property that we have.
And that's the council's
I
prerogative.
think they backed out of it completely, haven't
Who? No, absolutely not.
they? Val?
Absolutely not.
now Rudy came to my house to discuss it with me, and even though, and this was prior to him, them submitting the proposal, but in my conversation with him, he was wanting to hear what the engineer had to say. But it wasn't in the proposal, no, it was not. So,
I don't think we
That's
should
all I
pay for
have.
that.
Okay,
Oh, I think I got the answer for Bob on the tree problem. We don't really have anything in the code specifically on trees except weeds, high grass, and other vegetation in 220.020 and the following ordinances. It's mainly, it says that owners are supposed to follow the International Property Maintenance Code. It talks about grass. The city can cut grass and get a special tax bill and lien for that. It says you're required to maintain a minimum clearance for all trees. It doesn't say anything about what if they have to do anything about dead trees. So it's not otherwise some sort of a nuisance.
but we could ask them to,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
asking is not a
Yeah.
problem. You know,
you know,
whether we get them to comply
right,
is a different story.
right.
okay, thank you. Water Committee.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes of July
So moved.
2nd. Is there a second? No second?
Yeah.
Clean heart, pure
Okay,
work.
all those in favor? Okay, Bob, I understand that you have got that grant for that water tower out there.
Yes, sir.
You want to tell us about that?
Basically, we got approval for from the state revolving fund to pay for engineering services to look at the concept of the water tower project out there. It's a 90%, they will pay 90%, we pay 10% as far as the project.
Great.
So there again, it will require an RFQ, and I will put that out probably this week or next.
Did you ever pursue, you know, I got your name of that company that'll lease to buy a tank. Have you ever talked to those people again?
No,
Oh,
sir, I
well.
have not.
It might not hurt to give them a call.
Yeah, and
It's Caldwell, isn't it? Monroe?
Yeah. Call.
basically, I know that Fifth Gear has, they're pursuing their own option of a storage tank, so they have no interest in partnering up with us.
Well, I was just thinking, at least to buy may be a good way to do that. You wouldn't have to put out a lot of money, you know, just.
And basically, what I've seen is they have said you could go, you don't need to go with an elevated tank, you can go with a ground level tank with pneumatic pumps.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is the suggestion that I'm hearing, and which is obviously the cheapest route.
Yeah, well, it's cheaper maybe initially, but there's a lot of maintenance on them. But anyway, that's not for me to. And then the project on the water tank on East Street is still pending?
Yeah, basically what we're looking at is we're trying to get a time frame. He and I talked last week because he needs a time period where we can drop that level, the water tank level. And then when we do that, we also have to do the Star Hill tank because they're not separately fed, they're both fed at the same time.
When's the time of year is our least water usage? When is that?
I would say probably September, and that's the ideal time frame for him. So we're looking at the end of this month or first part of September before we get into the cool weather.
So probably the next meeting you'll have something?
Yes, sir.
Then the wastewater plant, you're 2 months behind, is that still true?
We had a meeting, we sent a letter to Lehman Construction. The letter was authored by Mark Bros, and I signed off on it, basically telling them that we weren't happy with the progress that they're making. They have now put on an additional crew and intend to put on another crew. They only have two more internal sections of concrete wall to pour in the facility, and then they'll start all the piping and everything. And they say the piping and that would take the 2 crews probably 2 months. So we're looking to be done by December. The cosmetic part of the contract with leveling and reseeding and all that, that may extend into next year, but DNR doesn't have a problem with that.
So the plant will be online maybe a month or?
Plant should be operational by the end of the year.
So you're talking about a month or 2 behind schedule then? When in October when it was supposed to be done?
Yeah, but we've been granted
With the flood, yeah.
extensions.
Yeah, you have to take out each month.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I got, unless some.
I just bring this up under water because they relate to water funds, but 715-030 and 715-090 still need to be addressed. So I don't know if ordinance wants to pick up the ball on that or if finance wants to pick up on the ball on that, but somewhere we need to put forth the effort to fix these 2 ordinances that are way out of whack in terms of what they require us to fund.
Right.
And we're not moving forward on doing that after several months, so.
We need to change it.
So I don't know if we want to do that in the water committee to sit down and come up with a proposed ordinance or start talking to the state, because these are state required funds, or investigate what that process even is, or if it's better done by ordinance or by finance.
I'd say finance, it is money.
Finance is
Yeah,
fine.
and it should be addressed once we get the actual audit report, I'm hoping there'll be recommendations in there
Yeah.
on how to address those.
That'd be great.
The accounts were created within the budget, correct? The
Yeah.
accounts themselves, so now we just need to make the ordinance to.
We're not funding
To
them
fund
to
it.
the,
Yeah,
correct,
to
How much?
right.
comply with what we're
Gotcha.
actually
Okay.
doing.
But we need to make that change.
Okay.
I don't want to wind up next year going, where are we going to get $1 million for this fund when that's
Right, when it's
ridiculous?
not even needed.
When does that audit report come in?
Should be here anytime.
I would think anytime soon. I
Well,
mean,
if
they're
it
pretty-
comes before next week, maybe we can address that.
Yeah, if it does, I'll get it to you.
Great.
But that plant's gonna be paid for this week.
I'm sorry, sir?
That water plant, when do you go, that be paid for?
217.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2017 is when
Okay, still some
it's
time.
completed. When that bond issue.
Okay, Bart, you got anything?
No, that's it.
Anything, man? We're done.
Okay, thank you. Grant committee,
I call the grant committee to order and make a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, the only thing I had, and I asked Bob already about the MLB grant, haven't heard anything back on that. And Monroe just brought up the grant for the engineer for the West End Tower, so we've already addressed that too. Bob, have you got anything else?
No, ma'am.
I guess Rich doesn't have anything for doing any
Well,
grants for,
Yeah, he has a grant that he has until September the 13th, I believe.
It's the
to-
yearly equipment grant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's working on it. He'll have it sent or applied for before the deadline. But
Okay.
he's getting his list
The
and stuff
yearly
ready
JAG
now.
grant is what
Okay.
they refer to
Okay.
it. JAG or burn.
Okay.
Walter Logan actually mentioned a grant that, and I wanted to bring it up and I forgot to bring it up, but he had mentioned a grant that Bowling Green had gone through, and I think it was Major League Baseball as well. Probably wasn't to the extent of what you were looking at, but that might be something we need to look into.
Bowling Green got a grant?
They got a grant for their ball fields, and I'll ask him more when I see him,
Okay.
but that might be something we want to follow up on.
Does anybody have anything else for grants? If not, we'll adjourn.
thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Ordinance committee,
I call the ordinance committee to order, and I ask for approval of the last month's minutes.
make a motion to approve the last one.
Do a second? Yes, you are.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 7 or 8 ordinances tonight that have come before us, and I understand I have to read them in entirety at this time because
Do you-
we're introducing them tonight.
No.
No.
That's not correct? Sharon told me.
But this is a committee meeting.
Yes, but I introduce them in the committee, I understand according to Sharon.
You only have to read them, my understanding is that you only need to read them when you're introducing them to full council. For a vote, for
Okay,
first reading and
well, I'm
second
happy
reading and
not
so on. Right now, this is, the committee meeting's the work study.
Okay, but according to her, I had to do this
Do you-
because
do you
we have
have
to
a-
introduce it.
Do you have an opinion on this, Mr. Rapp?
Uh,
For a
On a
committee?
particular ordinance, no, he doesn't have to read it.
Okay,
You're just-
okay, that's fine.
He's thrilled.
I'm happy. Okay.
Hey, do this.
Yes, okay. The first ordinance, I will read by title. An ordinance to amend section 110 point... They're in order of what we received today, so...
You got a
Yes.
sheet, you have a sheet.
It provides a synopsis of all 7 of them.
It was in your box today. It might have been in your box today.
I've done that.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
An ordinance to, I have an ordinance to amend the ordinance Let me start over again here. An ordinance to amend section 110.110, standing committees of the municipal code of the city of Louisiana, county of Pike, Missouri. I move that we bring it to full council.
A second.
Discussion.
Okay.
This ordinance does not specify who will be on it, how many will be on it, where they'll come from, or none of that. Who, if I'm reading this right, this committee could be made up of people that's not even on the council. And you could sit here on the council and not be on any committee.
Well, we
And-
have-
That would be
and
correct.
And you don't even have to be a resident to be on it, what I'm reading.
That is,
Okay.
I'm not on the committee,
Yes,
I'm the author of
but
this.
you're the author of this.
That is absolutely correct.
Well, that's what I was reading.
And Chuck, while we're here, did you get all the copies of what our city attorney said about these ordinances?
Yes, I do. And each-
Okay, then you're trying to bring it to full council when he's telling you it don't meet state statute or constitution.
I completely disagree with
But
that.
you're not the lawyer.
No, but I have actually privately hired one to review this and to review Mr. Rapp's opinion on this.
You actually pay this city attorney, and if you don't think the man's...
All right, I'm sorry, your chair, excuse me.
You may speak.
Thank you. If your committee would like to discuss the opinion that was provided by the city attorney, I would be glad to discuss those items.
Whether it's legal or not, to me, it makes no difference. I won't support an ordinance that won't, a committee be made up of people that's not even elected. You know, I don't see it nowhere on here that you have to even be a resident of the city to be.
You don't. It's purposefully intended to not have that requirement.
So this whole council could sit here and not be on any committee.
Potentially, but only if this whole council decided that that's what they wanted, which... But why would you rule out an expert that you would want their input on a particular committee just because they're not living in the city?
Because
I would rather see that it's made up of people who are residents.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah.
I would rather see it made up of the most competent people we could bring to the table for the conversation.
Well, you have a point, Bart, but my point is that person may not have this city at heart. They live in St. Louis somewhere, and they don't really care what happens here.
Well, then I hope we wouldn't put them on, then I would hope we wouldn't put them on a committee.
But it would be possible.
And if you can...
A lot of things are possible. But the motion is to bring it to full council. Was there an interest, I think, with the...
Kathy seconded, and yeah, he's got the call for the vote.
I'm waiting for her to return. I guess as I look at this, two people can do away with an
Absolutely.
ordinance. And in essence, I don't think that's fair when you have 8 people on the council.
I don't think that's...
That's a different ordinance.
Yeah, but it's still.
And honestly, if I could suggest, there's already a motion and a second, but I would have suggested that, that perhaps discussing those two ordinances, considering a bill and considering a bill in an emergency, which go together, maybe ought to be discussed first, because they have significant bearing on what might happen with these other ones.
And second, and so you have to deal with that motion.
I just, I fixed on it. The city ought to be run by residents of the city, not somebody else. And I don't like that. I could sit here and not be on any committee.
There you have, Kathy's back, Chuck.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to bring to full council ordinance 110.110. I would like a hand motion, positive or not positive. Okay?
What is, we have two votes.
To bring it to full council. I have
Yes
two
or no?
two votes so far to bring it to full council.
May I ask for clarification? The vote is simply to allow the full council to discuss this, which I think is what you're interested in doing, right? We're interested in having this conversation in full council.
Votes to it so that he can actually vote it down in committee.
But now,
I want to know if I have a vote to bring it to full council or not.
no,
You don't think the full council should discuss it?
no, I'm not voting. I'm
Okay.
against it, Bart, I'm not gonna.
You got two votes no, two votes yes. It's
Well,
a dead
I don't
issue.
think Mr. White has voted yet.
Yes, I have.
Okay, 2 no, 2, I guess then it's,
It died.
I disagree with that opinion, but we can discuss that when we get to the considering
The
it.
next one.
And I'm sorry, Tom, you're not running this meeting.
Yeah, I'm not running the meeting, but you are not on that committee and you.
May I
don't
speak, please?
I give him permission to speak.
I believe that if we would discuss considering a bill and considering a bill in an emergency, some of this may be helped along.
That is the second bill on our list here. The number is 110, 50. 250. Okay, this one reads as follows. 110.250.
And opinion from the city attorney, you've read that on 250?
I think
This is 240,
everyone
I think.
on council has gotten a copy of it, so
Pardon me?
if they haven't read it,
Actually, it's 110-240, and then 110-250 is related. They do go together, but
Just a point to clarify, are you talking about to amend the section declaring emergency status for review of any bill or ordinance?
I believe, if I may help clarify, the one I think we ought to talk about first is an ordinance amending section 110-240, procedure for the mayor and council to consider any bill or ordinance of the municipal code.
Okay.
Okay. And you did read the attorney's
yes,
opinion
I
on
did.
that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And he's saying that actually it is not defined, it's vague, and
I think you're reading the wrong one, Tom.
a 111-240?
110-240.
That's what I'm reading, procedures for consideration.
Oh, yes, you're right. You're correct.
Yeah, I'm correct.
My apology.
And our city attorney said it's vague and we really don't need it.
Yeah. And I'd love to discuss this because that point is really moot when you get to a comment that the heart of what Mr. Rapp's opinion is, which I completely concur with and is the whole reason for this amendment. What it appears to me has happened is that the attorney has responded here not to the amendment that I'm making, but to the actual ordinance itself, the existing ordinance, in which he says, if it is the intention of this proposed ordinance to abolish the council's power to consider an ordinance that did not originate from a referring committee, the ordinance appears to be in conflict with RSMO section 77080. In private consultation with McElroy's firm, they completely concur. So that's a second that agrees with Mr. Rapp's opinion that our current, that's not language I'm introducing. That's language that is in our existing code. So my recommendation on this would be that with Mr. Rapp's opinion, which deals with exactly the problem that this amendment was meant to address, I suggest this bill be removed from consideration entirely and replaced by a bill wholly abolishing 110-240, which I believe, per Mr. Rapp's comment here indicates 110-240 is in conflict with our RSMO section 77080. In fact, and this is the bearing on everything else that could be discussed, if the ordinance committee, as it just did on the last ordinance, says, no, we're not going to refer it to full council, and I, as a city council member, were to drop this off on Thursday and say, Sharon, I want this posted, and I want it on the agenda for Monday, and the city did not do that, the city would be in a very difficult legal position should I file suit against the city for not hearing that. So, I certainly would hope it would never come to something like that, but the point is that we have a problem, the one exactly discussed here, that we're in conflict with RSMO section 77080. 110-240 needs to go away. It needs to be completely abolished. If we would like to hear from a committee on an ordinance that is coming to the full council, that's just fine. But that committee should not be able to, and cannot be able to, stop the full council from addressing it.
So you're withdrawing this one then?
I would recommend that this be withdrawn, and that a new bill wholly abolishing 110-240 be put in its place.
Well, if I could speak to this, the version of 240 that I have in my book, and I would not swear that this is the most up-to-date version, but it provides that the mayor and council can only consider bills and ordinances in a written form. And that is, I think everybody agrees with that part.
Yeah,
and then it's got that sentence that any referring committee must consist of current city council members.
Mhm.
That part is, there's no basis in state law for that. Because then a council can say, we're deprived of the right to consider something because it was referred by a committee and not everybody got reelected or stayed in office. There's no such restriction on the council's power in state law to consider that. So that's the version I have.
Does yours say
You want
that
me to
the mayor and council shall only consider bills or ordinances previously reviewed in some written form that's given by state and referred to the full council by the ordinance committee or other appropriate committee? In other words, this states that we can only as a full council take up a bill if it came to us being referred by another committee, specifically the ordinance committee or another appropriate committee. That's the part that is in conflict with state law.
There's this balance that says a full council has the authority to do whatever legally a full council can do, to consider any bill or ordinance. And there's requirements, bills, ordinances have to be in written form. You can't just pass
Right.
401s, things of that nature. Have to conform to public policy, has to conform to state law, has to be reasonable, clear and concise, all the other things. But this other part about, I don't think there's a basis in state law for that under the existing. So there's a problem with that ordinance and a problem with this one, this appropriate referring committee. But, the other part of the equation, though, is a legislature can make its own operating rules. If you make a rule, you're supposed to follow. But you can't eliminate state law. But if you want to agree that as a body, we agree that we're going to have a rule that we don't want to consider bills unless this happens. I mean, you can make that rule, but that's a self-governing thing. But you cannot bind. You can make an operating rule that doesn't bind the next council that takes office.
Or even this council. We could have that rule. We have this rule. Yet if Larry brought a bill to Sharon tomorrow and said, I would like this posted, publicly posted, and I would like it on the agenda on Monday for conversation by the full council, the city is in a legal problem. They can be sued, is the advice that I got. if we don't do that, we need to put it on, so in other words, we cannot deny Larry the ability to, because it's by motion, and he has the right to make that motion, which requires that to be posted, and it requires it to be on the agenda. Because it's an ordinance, it has to go through that process. We cannot deny Larry the ability to bring that up to this full body, which is what just now happened in all of our minds with the ordinance that was just denied because it didn't have a majority to go to full council. All of us are sitting here thinking, well, that means full council can't talk about it. But that's not true. I can take that same ordinance, or Larry could, or anyone could, go to Sharon and say, I want this posted and I want it on the agenda. And if the city doesn't do that, they're in a situation where there's a potential lawsuit to make it happen, is the advice I got from council.
Because that would be a conflict of interest.
Well, my counsel
can't
says
sue
that
the
I
city.
absolutely can sue the city for not allowing that motion to happen. And I certainly don't want to do that. I'm putting that out there as a hypothetical that says there's a problem with an ordinance that says the full council can be denied the ability to consider a bill. So my recommendation would be that 110-240, it doesn't add anything. There's nothing here that it does. The fact that it has to be in written form is a given by state statute. If we want it reviewed by a committee, we can certainly ask that happen. The only thing that it adds to the equation is something in conflict with state statute.
Like the 60 days.
Oh, well, the 60 days, and again, if you want to look at the 250 or the 60-day statement, those were all ways to deal with this same problem, which is that the way that we have interpreted these ordinances is such that a 4-person subcommittee of the legislature can shut down a bill, keep it from being discussed and heard by the full council. And so these amendments were largely geared towards solving that problem, that's not right, that a minority of the council could deny another minority of the council the right to even bring up and discuss in this body a bill, okay? So the 60 days is irrelevant.
There's one more aspect of this that you're leaving out. The ordinance committee, part of your job on the ordinance committee, the big part of your job is to make sure that a bill is proper. It's not illegal, and I didn't go to my own private lawyer, so I got to go with what Rapp said. And he said that the bill is not legal. So that's where I'm going with that.
Okay, Monroe, what is it he's saying isn't legal about the bill?
I don't know.
The statement is,
That's already been voted down, so anyway.
No, let's discuss that. You brought up exactly the point, Monroe. So let's make sure that it gets addressed. The statement that Mr. Rapp has brought up is that if it is the intention of this proposed ordinance to abolish the council's power to consider an ordinance that did not originate from a referring committee, the ordinance appears to be in conflict with RSMO section 77080. Isn't that what we just now did? We just had an ordinance committee keep the council. We had them, we have set up, this isn't something I proposed, we have in our current 110-240, we have a problem because we have a committee, a referring committee that abolishes the council's power to consider an ordinance.
Well, they're two separate issues. Issue one is this proposed change lawful and constitutional?
Oh.
The second issue
Pull it
is
out.
whether the existing ordinance is perfectly kosher.
Yeah, they have a slight overlap, which is the part that makes the part that makes this bill not tenable is the same thing that makes the existing ordinance not tenable.
Basically,
Right.
I would say that's accurate. I'd say that They're both no good, but the issue
They're both
presented to
no
me here
good.
is just this
I understand.
proposed change.
And I've already said, I think this should not be considered for that reason. But if you're gonna make that decision, that this should not be considered for that reason, then you are also saying that the existing ordinance is how do you wanna say it? In conflict with.
Ill-advised.
Ill-advised, is in conflict with section 77080 for the exact same reason.
True, but right now, that is your operating rule for the time being, until you repeal it.
And my suggestion was to not consider this and replace it with a bill to wholly abolish 110-240. Monroe said the point of the ordinance committee is to make sure that all the i's are dotted, the t's are crossed. Well, here you are. The ordinance committee has found out, oh my goodness, we have an ordinance that isn't compliant. What are you gonna do about it?
We'll give it to the city attorney and let him correct it.
So I would recommend that the ordinance committee ask that such a bill be drafted.
A repeal order.
A repeal of 110-240 be drafted.
Mr. Rapp, put that in there.
Okay. You will write it then?
Sure it is. He's,
In the same,
The motion's been made, you want to
Yes.
second and go?
well, I can't make that motion, I'm not on your
I'll
committee.
make a motion that we instruct Mr. Rapp to draw up a repeal
Okay.
ordinance.
I seconded it. Rest?
If you move on then to the one that considers a bill in an emergency,
Wait a minute, did you have a vote?
Yeah.
Yes, they voted.
Get passed.
So number 2 is not even going to be discussed.
No.
and if you look at,
No, number, that was number.
Well, it's number 4, but the second.
Which one?
I don't have that list.
I don't
I
know.
don't know what list that is.
240?
Yeah. 110,
We just
240.
did, no, it's 250, we just did vote for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the fourth one on the list.
And 110-250, which follows right behind it, and has the same problem. I believe for exactly the same reason, this needs to be repealed as well.
Okay,
The
let me
emergency
let me
one?
go through first. Okay, an ordinance to amend section 110, 250, declaring an emergency status for reviewing any bill or ordinance or the municipal code of the city of Louisiana, county of Pike, Missouri.
Now you can make your motion.
Okay?
But I don't know if you have a motion or you'd like to have some discussion about the opinion of the attorney, which is the same. It includes, well, actually, the opinion here,
It's that reason plus the sunshine law reason.
right, which we could discuss all of that. But if there is, with Mr. Rapp's opinion of 110-240 is critically flawed, then this ordinance, 110-250, is a vestige of a non-existent policy. In other words, this one indicates that it says, if a bill or ordinance is presented to the mayor and or council before being reviewed in some written form and to the full council by the ordinance committee or other appropriate committee as described in section 110-240, well, if we get rid of 110-240, which is the crux of why this has to exist in the first place, then this one needs to be abolished as well. There is no need for this, for 110-250. All it attempts to do is give meaning to what is covered in the Sunshine Law, and as Mr. Rapp's statement says, subsection 2 of the Sunshine Law allows meetings and thus consideration of proposed ordinances to occur if the council finds it's impossible or impractical to strictly comply with the Sunshine Law. There's no need to declare it an emergency or give it special status. If it is impossible or impractical, we can do it. We don't need to rewrite the Sunshine Law. It's a done deal. So 110-250, because you get rid of 110-240, 110-250 should also go away, in my opinion.
Mr. Rapp, research that.
Okay.
I would recommend that the council go ahead and and ask Mr. Rapp to draft a proposal for the same reason, abolishing or repealing 110-250.
I so move that we have Mr. Rapp rewrite the law to fit.
Abolishing.
Abolishing it, yes.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Okay.
Mr. Monroe?
Yeah, he voted yes.
All right. 110 is done.
So that ordinance is dying as well, right?
That's not,
Yeah.
we're gonna work it, yeah.
Rework it, yes. Okay,
Which one was the first one you just discussed?
first one we discussed was 110.
Okay, and so what, to revisit that if you don't mind,
I don't mind.
what will happen is I am going to ask Sharon to post this and to put it on the agenda for Monday night.
You can do that, and I'll veto it.
That would be fine, and I believe that if you do that, you will put yourself and the city in the situation of being liable for a lawsuit.
No, I won't, because I've listened to you bring it forward to the council. It's been there. The council will vote on it. If the council turns it down, it's done. If they don't turn it down and they vote for it, I will veto it, and that's my right. It takes 6 votes to override my veto.
Oh, you'll veto it if the council passes it?
Absolutely.
Oh, I see. Yeah, well, that's absolutely you're right, and April will tell much.
Okay. We next one would be 130.30. It's an ordinance to amend section 130. Okay, 130.030, appropriation ordinance of the municipal code of the city of Louisiana, county of Pike, Missouri.
I don't have any comments on that one.
I'm sorry, which is 130?
I don't believe we had any opinion from Mr. Rapp on that one. So,
okay. Well, oh, yeah, taking it full
That's
council.
much better. Thank you.
Okay,
thanks, Bob.
I need a vote.
I need a motion and a second.
I need a motion. I need a motion
I'll make a
first.
motion to pass that full council.
Do I have a second? Okay. All in favor? And vote of full council. Next one will be an ordinance to establish order of business in preparation of city council agenda and of the municipal code of the city of Louisiana, county of Pike, Missouri. Do you have any comments?
Yes. Okay.
I'm just getting yours.
The
Ordinance for the agenda.
crux of this one,
I
as
thought we already took care of that one.
We
No.
already, that's what I was gonna say.
for the agenda,
Yeah,
No, on the agenda, we passed that the last council meeting.
taking off that,
this isn't to remove
No, you're
the,
wanting to put 48 hours so that you
oh,
can
okay,
address
sorry.
the agenda.
I'm sorry.
And actually, 24 is what we do right now.
Mhm.
So if anything comes up, nobody's going to oppose anybody from being on the agenda. I think it's an ordinance you don't need. You're restricting yourself again, and you don't need to do that. But anybody can get on the agenda, all they have to do is come in and ask to be on the agenda 24 hours prior to.
you know, I'm okay with that.
Okay?
So
If-
that one's gonna go away.
I think that it's perfectly reasonable that the city council would establish a policy, as it often does, that gives form to the process. For instance, if a department head wants to know, how do I get something on the agenda, that there's a way to know how that happens. I think asking for that in 48 hours in advance is a reasonable policy. That's what this establishes. It describes the process by which one gets something on the agenda.
All departments
But we can
have to know right
discuss that
now
differently.
If they went on the agenda, all they have to do is come in and tell Sharon they went on the agenda. I'm saying we don't need restrictions to get on the agenda. You already have an open book to come in.
Well, and until we don't. We do until we don't. And I've had a history of sometimes being denied the right to have conversations that maybe ought to happen on full council. I'll withdraw that one. It's not necessary.
Okay, I suppose we need to vote on that, actually. To not bring it?
Yeah.
Okay. To not bring this to full council?
You need a motion. You don't need.
You don't need it, you can just
No.
like it. He's withdrawing it.
He's withdrawn.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, an ordinance establishing an ad hoc organizational review committee to better serve the citizens of Louisiana, of the municipal code of the city of Louisiana, county of Pike, Missouri.
If I may comment on this one, the primary problem here is that Mr. Rapp has errantly identified this as an ordinance when it is clearly a resolution. It is not meant to be held to the standard of an ordinance. It is simply a resolution creating a committee, the committee that we had agreed to create. It was also, I'm not sure how it got to the attorney for consideration, as it is a resolution, not an ordinance. But it was also presented as an example, because we have to change the one that you all denied in order to even form this committee, because this committee does not conform to the existing 110
Yeah.
ordinance. So this is actually a resolution, not an ordinance, and
No.
I don't see why that was even reviewed.
May I speak? You're taking the 4 councilmen off on this here on your house committee, and you're saying that you don't have to have a councilman from each ward on every committee, and I disagree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that was the one that was denied. I think what we're talking about now, Tom, is the proposed resolution to create an organizational review
No, we don't hear
committee.
resolutions.
This committee doesn't hear resolutions. This was simply an error in, I don't know where, but it's clearly a resolution, not an
I
ordinance.
think where that came from is you submitted all them to Sharon, and she typed them all up and sent them to our city attorney. And they were proposed ordinances at the time.
I
don't think there was
I
anything
propose-
said about.
It says proposed resolution here, and then on the document that I have, it says a resolution establishing an ad hoc committee. I think I was pretty clear that that's a
I
resolution.
don't have that.
You
There
did.
seems to be a lot of concern about resolution versus ordinance. And I pulled something in a book that we lawyers use, and I just thought this would help. In general, an ordinance is a local law of a municipal entity duly enacted by proper authority which prescribes uniform and permanent rules of conduct relating to the corporate affairs of the entity. It is a legislative act which continues in force until repealed. A resolution is not an ordinance, but is usually less solemn or formal than an ordinance. A resolution usually deals with matters of a special or temporary character, and they cite a case. Resolution may express the opinion or state the mind of a governing body, or it may relate to the administrative or ministerial aspects of business of a local entity. A resolution and an ordinance are legally identical. As a practical matter, however, ordinances are often less formal than resolution, often being made following oral motions and covering such a variety. So it goes on and on. But basically, a resolution, it best describes something, you pass it, and it's a one-time deal. Like a resolution honoring a citizen, or a resolution that we're going to do something once. An ordinance is, if you're talking about how the council is going to operate, there's nothing wrong with using the word ordinance. you don't need to get hung up on that, because legally, they're identical.
Well,
Well, mine's copy says ordinance, right?
Yeah.
okay, I did not, if you want to consider an ordinance that
No,
says this, that's
no,
fine.
no.
I did not propose an ordinance, I proposed a
I'd
resolution.
rather take it to the resolution.
So that's all.
Throw that one off the table.
Agenda. So, okay, last
Is
one.
this gonna be retyped then and resubmitted, or?
It can be.
There's no point in this resolution if the council, and it was not intended at any point by me to be considered, except for as an example of something we wanted to do. And the reason we needed to change our standing committee's ordinance was so that we can do something like this that we wanted to do. But this committee has decided not to pursue
So
the,
it's withdrawn, no rerun?
I never proposed it. I certainly never proposed it as an ordinance.
Okay, last one. An ordinance establishing mayoral appointments with the city council's approval of the municipal code of the city of Louisiana, county of Pike, Missouri. Discussion?
Okay, you read the opinion on that from RAP. It's an administrative nomination according to MML, and
No.
the state statute, the mayor appoints, the council votes yea, nay, or abstain.
Okay.
That's it.
I
I
understand that you have conflicting.
have a very conflicting opinion, and so did my private counsel. The statement here that, and I believe it's contradicted, I don't believe, I know that it is contradicted by MML's opinion. And it's contradicted in the attorney's own last sentence, that he says, "This proposed ordinance does not appear to be lawful exercise of legislative powers. The ordinance purports to make the mayoral appointments a collaborative effort by both the mayor and the city council." And he says it's not, he says, such and such governs it if a particular vests the power to appoint exclusively in the mayor, but then says, subject only to the advice and consent provision of the statute, which is the advice and consent of the council. This is, according to MML, according to the McElroy Law Firm, that is exactly what collaboration means. That this is absolutely a collaborative effort. The way that it is functioned, in the form of it, is that the mayor is producing a nomination, is supposed to get advice and then consent of the council in order for that appointment to happen. That is, by definition, collaboration between the mayor and the council.
Concurrence, it says in our ordinance. Not anything about collaboration, it says concurrence.
Okay, the state law, I believe, indicates, the provision that is pointed out here indicates that it is advice and consent. So I would suggest,
Consent, like I got the definition for consent was, you either vote yea or you vote nay.
correct. What would you say advice means?
If I thought that I needed the advice, I might ask
It doesn't
Larry,
say
or
if.
I ask any of the other councilmen.
And here's the problem.
I don't have to ask all the council.
And here's the problem. This is intended to be a process by which there is a discussion between the administration. It's a balance, right? The administration gets to propose people, and the council gets to talk about that, give input, have a say, yay or nay in the end. But that discourse isn't happening. What is happening is we get hit with a bunch of nominations, some people of whom I don't even know, and I'm supposed to vote on within hours of finding out that they're even being nominated. That is contrary to the intention of these laws, the intention of the appointment, and in MML's opinion, and in McElroy's opinion.
No, it's not MML's opinion. Show
So-
me that in writing.
So I would suggest to the council that there is nothing here that is contrary to state law by saying that this is a collaborative effort. The second claim that Mr. Rapp puts forth is has to do with let's see, there's a third one about the preamble, which is really moot. The time limits that are found. This ordinance attempts to give structure exactly to that point, that so that there can be a window of time for us to discuss an important thing like an appointment ought to be discussed. And in order to create that, we asked that the mayor would give us time to give consideration. This last time around, we asked for a week. I think I asked for 48 hours, and the mayor indicated that a week would be fine, but then did not do that. He gave us...
48 hours.
No, I got less than a day on some of the people on
You got
the...
them on Friday, that gave you Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Okay.
To me, that's a little bit more than 48 hours.
Okay, I don't believe that we got the time that we were told we
You're
would...
trying to make appointments, and it's the mayor's job, and you've got one job. You either approve my appointments or you
No,
disapprove.
I interpret my job to give advice and then consent on those.
Okay, I move that we bring this to full council. Do I have a second?
You got a motion made, they brought it, and they can vote on it.
Yes. May we have a vote? Mr. White?
No.
No? Mr.
Yeah,
Kelly?
take it.
Take it to...
Yep.
I'm sorry, what was your vote?
Yes.
You gonna take it to full count?
Yeah.
That's it, I guess.
I just have one thing. I would love to have my ordinance book.
We all, yes.
We would all.
They haven't come back yet.
They haven't come back yet.
They have come back.
Oh, they have?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Sharon told me the other day they hadn't come back.
Wait a minute, wait.
All the updates have been done.
Huh? All right.
She needs all the books
Sharon's office.
given to her so that she
She
can
can
do all
update
the updates at one time,
Okay.
not sporadically.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to do it all.
No, I turned mine in a month ago, or
She's missing
I don't know,
one.
sometime back.
You still have yours? Sharon needs it so we can all get ours.
That's the one.
That's the
one.
missing book.
Okay.
Lack of communication.
If you'd like to leave
Agree.
it with me, Monroe, I'll be happy to
I'll
get
make
it
a
to her
motion,
tomorrow.
we adjourn.
You don't need a motion.
It's the ordinance.
God bless you, Jim. Huh?
Thank you.
I got it. Hey, have you ever watched?
Oh, yeah. That's a funny.